Our civil servants are too valuable for us. They are too important. We have to pay them enough, to the extent that they will not be reduced to these indignities of chasing after per diem or allowances in conferences. I recall growing up, my father was able to take a government loan to build a house. And he was able to build 2 houses from government loans. The first house was at our family home in Banjul when I was a little kid. He paid that off over 20 years. He took another to build our house where I grew up. And he paid that off in another 20 years. Yes, as a civil servant, he is not expected to be rich. You would struggle, but at least you are paid enough to be able to do these things. Now in Gambia, who can build a house from his or her salary? It's impossible. Even the masons earn more than the senior assistant secretaries in government. It is a shame. Pretty soon, the Mbindans would earn more than senior government officers, because already they earn 3 times the salaries of low-level police officers. We have to change this. And the only way we can change this is to ensure that people are paid enough for them to have a decent living. We will implement an effective, verifiable income and asset declaration policy for all public employees to guard against abuse of public office for personal gain. But this is tied to the principle of paying livable wages. If we pay you enough, if we pay you well, there is no reason why you should do nakasudu. If you pay you enough, there is no reason why anyone should do otherwise. And we hope that with these measures, things would change. If they don't change, we would put in place certain enforcement mechanisms that would ensure justice for all wrongs done. Corruption will never be maslahad. Corruption will be prosecuted. That is what we need in this country. If we are to get the change that the people need, we have to be very strict about these things. But you see, there won't be any excuse for public officers. I trust them. I have worked with some of them. I have interacted with some of them. Those that are corrupt, at least some of them, are just succumbing to some terrible circumstances that they find themselves in. They have no choice. Well, now, in a presidency that we did, we will give them a choice. If they are paid well, they won't have any reason to. But if they do, we will go after them. So we are saying to government officers, you don't have to worry. You don't have to be scared. We are helping you to be what you want to be, which is being straight and honest and diligent public servants who serve your country well. And we would help you to do that. We would try to revive the economy. It is now in slumber. And we would create a functional, participatory, and efficient economy for our times, based on sustainable growth and macroeconomic stability. We will eliminate waste and introduce cutbacks in government spending, privatization of state-owned enterprises, increase foreign trade and remove barriers to trade, liberalization of interest and exchange rates. We would also elevate the educational standards in this country. I have always said that we don't provide the Gambians with the education that they need for the development of this country. So we would improve the quality and relevance of education in the Gambia by strengthening national capacity to address challenges of teaching and learning, including teacher-related challenges. We've introduced access to early childhood education and development programs, especially for children from disadvantaged backgrounds, to help reduce educational inequality and to ensure that all children begin formal schooling on a strong foundation. You know, maths is a big problem in this country. It's just because that kids are not exposed very early to numeracy, and we will change that. For many of you, coming here today must have been very difficult because there are no roads in this country. The few that are in very poor state. We would put in place appropriate infrastructure in this country. So we would have an infrastructure transformation. A recent World Bank study found that the poor state of infrastructure in many African countries, including the Gambia, reduced national economic growth by 2 percentage points every year and cut business productivity by as much as 40%, making Africa, in spite of its enormous mineral and natural resources, the region with the lowest productivity levels in the world. We will create a network of infrastructure to help move Gambia into the 21st century and boost our country's economic growth. Recently, we have seen roadworks or excavations that are leading to roadworks to commence. This could have started 4 years ago. I don't know what we've been waiting. This is 4 years late. This is 4 years late. In a government led by Team Essa and by Faal, we would work very hard to ensure a quick transformation of the infrastructure of this country. The roads are in a palpable state, in an embarrassing state. We have to do something about it. This is one country, one road. From Banjul to Koina, it's one road. We have to change that. The biggest demography in this country is the forgotten people. That is the youth. The youth who are aged 13 to 30 years represents 37% of the population. If you take it to 40 to 45, it's about 65% of the population. So they hold the key to Gambia's economic, political, and social transformation. If we are to become a middle-income country, this is the demography with the strength, the power, and the stamina to transform this country. If we neglect them, we are shooting ourselves in the foot. In fact, we are saying to the person who should give you a helping hand and take you higher up, you say, no, you just stand aside. You're not to be counted. That is what we do. I am saying that in a presidency led by Team Essa and by Faal, the youth would be in the front, in the center, and at the back of everything that we do in this country. They would be the engine of growth and the vehicle for the transformation of this country. So all programs in this country would be youth-centered and youth-driven. We would ensure youth representation in cabinet. We would ensure youth representation in parliament. We would ensure youth representation in every sector of the economy. We would ensure that the youth play a huge role in the decision-making for their future, in the decision-making for this country. Our commitment is to systematically transform our young people into active, dedicated, patriotic, and productive citizens. You see, if you don't, you won't love your country if your country doesn't do anything for you. We want to change that. We want to change that. We want to create a situation where the youth are obligated and indebted to this country and would therefore love nothing more than paying back to their country. So the youth would be in the center and front and the middle of everything that we do. The transformation of this country cannot take place without a transformation of the agricultural sector. Recently, I visited Jahali Pachar, and to my utter dismay, it is led to follow into what may eventually be a wild forest if we do not take the necessary step to also turn that one around. I was there to hear the cries of the women whose only livelihoods come from those fields. I was there to see how neglected that place is, crying out loud for a visit from the government which has refused to set foot there for the last 5 years. This place could be the breadbasket of this country. I do say that we have a palace and we decide to put aside that palace and rent a hut and pay a very high price for that hut. What do I mean by that? We have Jahali Pachar and can produce enough rice to feed this country. We decide to neglect it to buy poor grade rice from Vietnam or some Asian country. What a shame. We could turn this around. And we promise, we strongly believe that the Gambia has the capacity and potential to feed its population and become a net exporter of rice and other agricultural produce. The programs outlined in our manifesto will enhance our existing agricultural production potentials to ensure increased food production availability, access, and for export by implementing food sovereignty policies to ensure food self-sufficiency for our people. You see, I believe that a country that cannot feed itself is a country that is doomed. Our policies are aimed at ensuring food sovereignty. I like that term. It's a beautiful term. It's a beautiful term. Food sovereignty. It's another beautiful, a romantic definition of self-sufficiency. Thank you, guys. I learned something new, you know. You guys have done very well. Our healthcare system, or lack of it, I say all lack of it, advises, because for a lot of people it doesn't exist. For a person needing dialysis, for a woman needing a mammogram machine, our healthcare system does not exist. It exists for some in Senegal. We have to change this. I have just said, instead of spending $1 billion on a personal enterprise, it's more politically advised to spend that building hospitals and catering for the welfare of the Gambian people. I think that would make better politics. And Essa by Faal presidency promises to improve the quality of life of every Gambian by providing access to quality healthcare services in safe health facilities. I underline that, in safe health facilities, with the primary focus on preventive care instead of emergency care. You know, growing up as kids, we are taught, better safe than sorry. I'm sure all of you know that adage. Huh? Wow. Hor mo gen kamach, moito gen de. Fagaro gen faju. I think these are words of wisdom that can also advise us in our national politics and also in our governance. If we apply that in the health sector, I think we can focus on preventive care instead of emergency care. In addition, we can improve the overall health of the public by running awareness campaigns and introduce testing camps in remote areas, thereby reduce patient load and provide vital health awareness. You know what? The patient load is a big problem in this country. I understand, I have seen pictures recently of people lying on the floor at the main hospital in Banjul. That is a shame. That is really a shame. We should do something about it. So we would do something to revive the health sector. And amongst the policies really, one should also think of is to establish medical insurance to ensure that at least there are greater facilities and greater care for the people. Information and communication technology. You know, the kids of today will talk mainly about megabytes. They talk mainly about browsing. They talk mainly about FaceTime and WhatsApp. And this is important because our lives nowadays revolve around this. You see, when you drive around the country, you have those pockets or black holes where you cannot communicate. It's all because of the rudimentary facilities we have in our information and communication technology sector. We are doing well, but we can do better. So we would invest in key ICT initiatives